Hello, and welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me, as always, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Hollis.
Before we jump into the episode, I just want to let everyone know that we are available also on YouTube if you are jonesing to see what Dave and I look like and what the show is like in real time with a visual component. Yeah, Dave is gussying as we speak. We are available at popculturegraveyard.com. So you can catch us on YouTube, or you can visit us on Instagram at Pop Culture Graveyard, and Dave is at Dave himself. Also, I just want to call out, we're usually wearing unique t-shirts. Dave is rocking a PCG, Pop Culture Graveyard t-shirt, available at dave.threadless.com. And I am rocking a Chuck D t-shirt that is available from Tees for Togo. That's TEES numeral 4 TOGO.com. One t-shirt can help one woman go to school for an entire year in Togo. And I bring it up only because it is founded and run by Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill. And Bikini Kill and the entire Riot Girl movement factors highly in the film we are covering this week. It is 2021's American comedy drama, Moxie. Dave, I think every high school movie now should be measured against Booksmart.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good measure. I like it. Yeah.
And I think this holds up pretty well by that measure. Dave and I think very highly of Booksmart. This has the same kind of dynamic of there's two friends we start out with. One is evolving, one is pushing against boundaries, the other isn't. One is trying to stand up for a cause, and the other wants to be kind of invisible and play it safe. And it sort of tears them apart for a while. I love this film. I found it inspiring. And I found it so inspiring that I kind of was restless at the end of the film. I wanted to do something. I wanted to, I really wanted, that's one of the reasons I'm mentioning the Tees for Togos. I want people to, especially younger women and girls, I want them to listen to this episode, get into the movie, and get into politics on your level and whatever you can do to put more goodness into the world.
Yeah. Women, they're our greatest untapped resource.
That's right.
That's from the film, folks.
That is right.
I too felt the restlessness. I too wanted to start a zine. And then I remembered that I do a podcast with you. We definitely visit places that need to be visited.
And that usually aren't visited by, two dudes doing a podcast.
Totally, bro.
We try to amplify voices.
Yeah.
And we only cover movies we love. And I absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, it was great.
The movie was directed by Amy Poehler, comedy veteran. It doesn't get more street cred comedy-wise than Amy Poehler. Came up with the Upright Citizens Brigade, later was on Saturday Night Live, has done lots of movies, is great in everything. Parks and Recreation is a fantastic show that I think is...
It really is.
The Office done right.
Nice.
Yeah, I think she was brilliant to cast herself in this as the lead girl's mother. Are you a big Amy Poehler fan in general?
I am. I mean, I absolutely loved Parks and Rec. I think I watched it twice, all the way through.
And for you, that is high praise.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of things twice. I do love a good, funny series. And if I really enjoyed 30 Rock and I had to wait. I wait about 5-6 years before I watch it again. And then I'm able to, I've forgotten most of the jokes and I can enjoy it again. And that's how it was with Parks and Rec.
Her character of Leslie Knope is one of the great characters.
It's just fantastic. And they didn't do it to death. They did it just enough. And yeah, it was well done. Her and Tina's Weekend Update.
Oh, masterful.
I mean, I love Michael Che and
Mr. Scarlett Johansson.
Mr. Scarlett Johansson, yes.
Yeah.
And Scarlett Johansson's handsome husband. I love them. Chrissy and I are like, when there's a rough episode, we're like, let's just watch Weekend Update and turn it off. Yeah. But Amy and Tina were terrific back in the day.
Yeah, no, they were, for me, Weekend Update goes Norm Macdonald, Tina and Amy, And then
Mm,
everyone else is a distant second to those. They might
hmm.
even be tied. I might have Norm in equal footing with Tina and Amy, which are, very different agendas, but like
Norm was incredible.
incredible. But they're the
Mhm.
benchmark, I think. Norm, Tina, and Amy.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and on award shows, they should host every award show.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anytime you see the 2 of them standing next to each other, you're like, "Hey, hey," you, like, put your phone down, you're like, "Shh,
Mm-hmm.
shh, shh, Tina and
No,
Amy."
it's magical. It's
Yeah.
magical. They even did a movie together, a fun movie that I liked called Sisters. Anyway, so Amy Poehler, fantastic job directing this, and she was great in it. The screenplay was by Tamara Chestnut and Dylan Meyer, and it was based on the book Moxie by Jennifer Mathieu. One final thing about Amy Poehler, if you want to draw a parallel, Leslie Knope, who she played on Parks and Recreation, was this wonderful mix of the right kind of politics and comedy. Like she
Mm,
was someone who got into politics for the right reasons. She was like good hearted, wore her heart on her sleeve, was totally innocent and forthright about wanting to put good into the world. And that's pretty much the kind of character she's playing in this as the parent of a girl, Vivian, who is a 16-year-old, played by Hadley Robinson, who is fantastic in this. Amy Poehler's character, Vivian's mother, used to be into the Riot Girl movement. There's one moment where Vivian like discovers the box of her mom's treasures or something, or she
mhm.
she knows where it is. Like her mom has told her about it countless times, I'm sure, and tried to get her into it. But she finally was motivated when she opens that box. It is such a treasure trove of Riot Girl memorabilia, and
Even the stickers on the outside.
I appreciated the Descendants making the cut
Yeah,
too.
the Descendants is a hero sticker. It's right
Yeah,
up front, yeah.
there was one part of her sifting through the fanzines and the flyers and posters that was kind of odd to me, which was they photoshopped a picture of Bikini Kill, a rather famous picture of the big three of Bikini Kill, the one where Kathleen Hanna is wearing a Little Mermaid T-shirt, and they put young Amy Poehler's head over Kathleen Hanna's, and I'm like, I I know
Uh,
they meant it as a sly nod, maybe, or like a kind of
uh,
playful thing, but to me, it's just like Kathleen needs her moment there. What are you doing?
was it not like maybe a cutout that Amy had done because like Rebel Girl, she wished she was that girl?
That's what I want it
Maybe.
to be. I'll go back, and if it is that, I'll cut this out.
No, while we're on that, I had I listened to Rebel Girl my whole life,
Mm.
or since it came out, and started leaking into the bars and places I was hanging out and stuff, and films, stuff I was seeing, and I didn't know what the song was about. I only heard the first 1 or 2 lines.
That girl thinks she's the queen of the neighborhood. She's
That
got the
girl thinks
hottest
she's the
trike in
queen of the
town.
neighborhood. So, I heard that and then enjoyed the rest of the song. This young woman doesn't like that other young woman. And then I
Oh,
I I never registered the rest of it.
you never got
And
to the
then
next two lines.
this movie made me like, "Oh,
Yeah,
oh, she's enamored by the rebel girl. She respects the rebel girl.
yeah,
I'm in love with the rebel girl." Like, I didn't know that. I'm so sorry.
yeah.
What a great anthem. It's a great anthem. You could say that that song is the seed. That's the move. Like, Amy Poehler was listening to that song and said, "I'm gonna make a movie about this."
Hmm. Well, yeah, the song Rebel Girl, and I have to bring up, if anyone is already here watching this episode on YouTube, check out the archive, because in Pop Culture Graveyard Mark 1, I
Mhm.
have a whole episode dedicated to Bikini Kill, which is one of my all-time favorite punk bands. Dave called out that girl thinks she's the queen of the neighborhood. Later, she says, "I got news for you. She
She
is."
is.
Which is like
Yeah.
the best line in the whole song, I think. And it's anti-slut shaming. It is
Mhm.
it is just a fantastic song on many levels, and it rocks. It is their
Yeah, it totally
They have a
rocks, yeah.
lot of powerful songs, but this one is also kind of ear candy in a very raw way. But there's one line in the song that starts the dive Dave is talking about, which is this girl, a girl of color, 16-year-old, I believe, like Vivian, Hispanic, because she does speak Spanish at one point.
Lucy.
Lucy, and she has dreadlocks, and she is different from the school around her. There are other students of color, and they also seem marginalized the way this school is drawn. It's very white and very cisgendered, except for a trans character, which is lovely to see. But anyway, Lucy, who is played by Alicia Pascual Pena, is bullied by the king of the school, the captain of the football team, played unbelievably well by Patrick Schwarzenegger, who is royalty of a certain sort.
Yeah.
He is the progeny of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. And he is perfect as the beautiful yet oddly mean asshole who we all knew in high school.
He would have made a great Winklevoss.
Yeah, one of many Winklevi. Yeah, he's just, terrible. And I don't know about you, Dave, but like there's something scarier, almost like Ted Bundy or something, about really mean, almost psychopathic tendencies and bullying coming in such a beautiful package.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
This character, who most women in school have a crush on, even sort of Vivian at the opening, he's just so pretty looking, is really the most dangerous kid in school. And there's this wonderful thing. Vivian says to Lucy, like, oh, you just got to excuse him. He's just annoying.
Yeah.
And Lucy tells her, annoying can be really dangerous, right? He can be annoying and be really dangerous. And Vivian never thought of things that way. And she's like, yeah, well, if you keep your head down and are kind of invisible, he'll just leave you alone. And she's like, thanks, but I'm going to keep my head up high. And then that's what sparks. She's thinking about this girl, this rebel girl at her high
Who,
school.
by the way, holds her head high in the song.
Yep. And so she asks her mom, Mom, what is that song you used to play for me all the time when I was a little kid about a girl holding her head high? And she's like, Rebel Girl, Bikini Kill. She listens to it on YouTube, and it inspires her delving into her mom's past and the Riot Girl movement.
I love how she hides listening to it from her mother.
Right. Who would love that?
No, any teen kid can't give her mom the satisfaction.
No. Like, you don't give her that win.
Yeah. It's very typical, I think, and was a good way to do it.
Also, it captures it well for exactly what you're saying, because the last thing she wants is her mom to hear it, and then her mom to come over and be like, oh, this is great. Now check out, go, yeah, but if you're starting with albums, you don't want to start with that. You want to start with this one.
All kinds of possible, yeah. When you're that age, and this is literally a moment of self-creation for her, and you're vaguely aware of that while you're doing it. And you don't want help. That's for you and you alone. I used to go through my parents' boxes looking for things that I could make myself into, looking for a jacket that could be who I am, looking for shoes or a piece of jewelry or.
At that age, you're trying on personalities with every article of clothing, really.
And you don't want help. You don't want your mother involved, because part of the whole point of it is you're about to separate yourself from your parents.
Your parents who dressed you for years, who kind of dictated through whatever coat they bought you who you were.
Yeah.
And like, so even wearing her mom's old leather jacket, even that, somehow when she puts it on, she's putting it on her own terms.
Yeah. It's weird. It's
weird, right? Because it's her mom's.
She's not putting it on saying, I could be like my mom. She's putting it on as a costume for who she could be. It's currently undefined, but the jacket represents the possibility. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. It's also a security blanket. It's part of the fake it till you make it equation here, because she's not like Lucy. She's not a strong character, as she says at the very end of the film. She is like someone who does try to stay invisible and just get through. And not,
I think the movie makes a great point of that. I made the mistake of, I did a Google for some reviews.
Oh.
And I read a couple, like I just read a couple of lines of a couple of reviews, and it's like middle-aged men. This is so over the top woke. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Yeah.
But
I never understand that, Dave. Like, the non-woke have 90% of the marketplace out there.
Mhm.
Go
Yeah.
watch a fucking Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Why on earth are you kind of picking on the 10 to 15% woke
I
entertainment
know
out there? It's not for
A
you.
on Amy Poehler's little bitty, motivating, lovely movie,
Yeah.
you're gonna bother
Yeah.
to put pen to paper and then put it on the internet? Like,
Men should watch this movie. Boys should watch this movie.
sure,
And
absolutely.
there's a character in it that we love, Dave, from Booksmart, which is Nico Hiraga.
If you need anything, I got you covered.
Yeah.
He's a nice
He
guy in Booksmart
he's a
too.
nice guy. He's this beautiful young dude who is very forward thinking, who is, as Dave and I try to be, even though we are not women and we're not gay and we're not trans and we're not whatever, we try to be an ally. That's the
Sure.
best you can do. That's the best you can hope for. And this character from Jump is an ally to the Moxie movement.
Could it be his 3 sisters, Hollis, that
Mm,
helped him get there?
I thought of that. I thought of myself having two older
I thought of
sisters
you too.
when
Yep.
he said that. So this kid is playing a character, Seth Acosta, who had a growth spurt over the summer. His knees still hurt from it. And before that, he was called like Shrimp Seth or Seth the Shrimp. And
Mhm.
now he is just a babe who Vivian is seeing with fresh eyes for the first time. He obviously has a crush on her when we open. The major plot of the movie, I will summarize very quickly, is that spurred on by her new friend Lucy and the introduction into her life of the possibility of standing up for yourself. Vivian, who is super shy and quite the introvert, creates a fanzine not unlike the Riot Girl fanzines her mother collected that were put out by Kathleen Hanna and her friends. And it's called Moxie. The title is taken from something that the principal of the school, Principal Shelley, said repeatedly at one of their inane school rallies, that the spirit team has Moxie or whatever, and the school has Moxie. And so to mock her, the name of this feminist zine is Moxie. One of the things that she says in the zine that she leaves in women's bathrooms, and so certain women in the school start reading it, is that if you want to show support and you feel like we do, put stars and hearts on your hands. And the next day, she has her hands in her pockets because she
'Cause she's
notices no
noticing
one's
all the
doing it.
blank hands, yeah.
Yeah. And there's this great moment in the bathroom where she's like trying to wash her hands. And Dave, another great bathroom stall scene.
Yeah.
Two young women of color come out and see her stars on her hands, and they have stars on theirs.
They have
They
stars
bond.
upon theirs.
And they bond instantly. It's a moment when Vivian gets some pride about seeing what she can accomplish, and she sees Lucy, the girl who inspired her, having her hands marked the same way. And she's like, oh my God, that's the girl I was trying to impress. And she's out there doing what I told her to do. And
Mhm.
then bringing up Seth Acosta one last time, Seth marked his hands as a show of solidarity. So yeah, that is the basic plot, and it just is wonderful to see this snowball at a school where one of the worst things that happens is probably a thing that happens at real high schools, is that there's a list every year. We grew up with high schools that had these sorts of things.
Had some likely to succeed sort of
Yeah,
simplified version
most
of that. Yep.
popular, but this school has almost a slam book of lists where it's kind of like best ass on a female
Mhm.
student and like best rack and
Most
all
doable.
most
Like,
doable.
yeah,
And the
it's
new girl, Lucy, gets like something like best C word. And that's what gets Lucy to go to the principal, Principal Shelley, who is played by a great actress, Marcia Gay Harden. If you want to see a fantastic Marcia Gay Harden role and what a great actress she is, see either Mystic River or her breakthrough role, which was Miller's Crossing. So getting her as the principal was a great get.
but she nails
Um,
it too. Lucy actually goes to the principal to complain about Mitchell, who it's portrayed as bullying, but it's much more than bullying.
Lucy says the words, I want to report that I was bullied by Mitchell and I felt unsafe.
Right. She adds that because it should absolutely be added. It was intimidation. It seemed like prelude to assault.
It
It was
did.
bad. It was very bad. She goes to Principal Shelley, and she is being the Lucy that we met in the previous scene. She's being confident and she's stating her point. And one might think, like, because the principal sort of, oh, you may have misunderstood, and oh, let's not call it, well, I forget what word, harassment. Let's not call it harassing. Let's, you could probably work this out, and just sort of talks her out of.
She also says, Dave, well, let's not call it bullying because then I have to fill out a lot of papers
Oh yeah,
here.
that she like points at the desk. Like then there's a whole bunch of stuff. You might think to yourself, what happened? She went in there with like confidence, and then she just sort of got shuffled out the door. Why? It's like he's 16,
Yeah.
talking to an adult, the principal of a school. It was very impressive that she went in there and stated her case, but it was very likely that the adult could talk her out of it. Probably
Thing.
talking people out of stuff all the time.
Absolutely. And I think it was a stroke of genius to cast a woman in that role, because then you see that it really is all about the system. The system is there to protect people like Mitchell and to keep the school running with this 1950s mentality. And it's not to protect every kid. It's not to make sure that no one falls between the cracks or that everybody is given a fair shake and everybody's on a level playing field. It's not like that. It's just to,
Yeah.
let's get to the next year.
That's what I was going to say earlier about when I read these reviews about how it's unrealistic and blah. And I'm like, I think the movie does a pretty good job of pointing things out like that. The movie is aware of the word systemic. And
Right.
also, the movie is aware of white privilege. Vivian's white privilege is pointed out repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a skinny little white girl who's getting all this shit done, but it's not ignored that
Yeah,
she can afford to do these things. It's absolutely called out. Her friend
it
Claudia
is.
calls it
Her
out.
friend
Yeah.
Claudia does. In the beginning, she is close friends with her friend Claudia, played by Lauren Tsai. Moxie kind of drives them apart because Claudia is one of those people like Vivian used to be, who tries to be invisible, who just wants to get through school, who has an enormous amount of pressure put on her by her parent, her mother. It could be a single mom, it could be whatever, but fathers are mostly absent from this. It's all about mothers, which I like
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was
Um,
nice.
just one last thing about the principal and why I love Marcia Gay Harden being cast is because if you cast a man in that role, that gives, haters an easy out, man hate or man bashing. The same way they dismissed Bikini Kill as man hate, the same way they dismiss any woman speaking truth to power as man hate.
Mhm.
So it's great to see that the problem is the system. Also, Principal Shelley is one more person, just like Claudia, just like Vivian used to be, who's trying to be invisible, who's putting their head down and trying not to make waves with the Mitchells of the world.
Mhm.
And that is scary to see from a position of authority.
Yeah, and they add this, $10,000 scholarship, prize for the best athlete or athlete of.
Student athlete.
Yeah, this is donated by a hardware store, a local hardware store, which is run by a former student who had days of glory on the football team. But it adds the element of these decisions are also they're made because of race, they're made because of economic reasons as well.
Mm-hmm.
The school probably enjoys having this $10,000 scholarship that they can wave around as a positive thing about their school.
Yeah. And Mitchell was like going to run unopposed, probably for like the third straight year or something.
And don't you
Um,
picture the hardware store owner saying, like, what if Kira won? You gave my scholarship to a black woman? Like, does anyone even know that that team exists? Like, I thought the handsome football guy was going to get it. Yeah.
Meanwhile, like at many high schools, the football team sucks. And yet there's a powerful influx of money there. They have the lovely stadium, they have great uniforms, they have a losing record. And
Mhm.
this woman, this star of her team, they have a wonderful record. They're
Yeah, they're
always
winning.
winning. Yeah. But, they're marginalized because nobody even knows where those games are. They don't have some stadium. They don't have great uniforms. There's preferential treatment with regard to football schools because they're part of a system that feeds into the NCAA, that feeds into the pros, that is all about money. And
Would you
so
say it's systemic?
I would say it's systemic. So if you start curtailing high school, the breeding ground really that feeds into
Mm.
these larger systems, then you're just pulling at a thread that gets very complicated. And that's going to get a lot of backlash that Principal Shelley, of all people, doesn't want. She runs it like a grammar school, and you can't run a high school like a grammar school.
I can't imagine a tougher job. I mean, I can't imagine a tougher job, but that is an incredibly tough job
Yeah.
because you're just being pulled in every direction. It's a no win. Being principal of a school is almost
Oh,
guaranteed no
yeah.
win.
To be a good principal, like I've seen principals portrayed on certain shows, reality shows, they follow certain principles. And the ones that do it well have no life outside of that,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
Um,
probably one of the ways you become a good principal is to, you've lost it all and you're going to
yeah,
pour everything you've got into your principalship.
you feel a little bit for Principal Shelley, she's not equipped to be anything other than what she is.
Yeah. The only other school employee that we get a lot of interaction with is their literature teacher or English teacher, Mr. Davies, played by Ike Barinholtz, I believe.
Yeah,
Is that
that
his name?
guy, I find his casting in every single comedy just mystifying. I don't think he's particularly funny, and yet he is used perfectly in this. He's used as well as you can use that guy,
I think
and
he's
I
used
liked
very
him.
well.
I liked him
Yeah,
in
he
this.
was good. Yeah. You see, he's in the same position as Shelley a lot of times, which is
Yeah,
what are you going to do about this? What do you have to say about this? And then they even point a phone at him so that he knows it's going out to the world.
right.
And any male his age with half a brain would
Hmm.
shut the hell up at that moment.
Right. I couldn't
And he
believe it. He
does. He
just,
clams
yeah.
up. He can't say anything because he can't risk it.
Well, Dave, it's a great moment too, because it captures what so many male teachers, I think, probably never thought of in their life. Like he's trying to parse this in real time. And we see the
Mhm.
wheels turning, and he goes into some odd, like almost the kind of acceptance speech you would give if you're Miss America or something, where he's just I'm for freedom and equality. I'm on the side of
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like ridiculous. And he has an arc, which is great.
It is
He
great.
and where
Yeah.
he starts to where he finishes is fantastic.
It puts in a device to remind you it's not man bashing. Here's a
Right.
man who, through just a tiny gesture, redeems himself.
That's a good way of putting it. That's what he
Yeah.
does, and that's all that he does.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. And he's not very important, but his not holding his hands up with a star and a heart could have stopped the protest. We needed Lucy and Vivian to get out the door of his classroom
Hmm.
first so that everyone would feel empowered. He wasn't integral, but
Right.
he was important in a small
Well,
way.
you know how they say that all it takes for evil to prosper is for good men to do nothing. Sometimes all it takes for good things to happen is for good men to stand by and do
To
nothing.
do a little. Yeah.
You know,
Do a little. Yeah.
just not impede somebody else doing good, and that's what he does. He kind of like stands aside and lets them know that he's on their side without breaking any rules.
It was almost a
Which,
perfect delivery now, like I wash my hands of it. He did the wash hands gesture,
hmm.
held the hand up, star and a heart, just one in each hand, and
Yeah.
a smile. Like, do you
Yeah.
understand me? And that's the
Mhm.
thing. He was put on the spot. He probably went home, thought about it, and that's where he landed. I'm going to help.
Yeah. He did what I'm sure millions of women would accept as a good gesture. He
Mm,
listened.
mhm.
He just thought about it. No one's asking you to do anything. It's very hard for a lot of men to just do nothing and not be a part of something and not try to mansplain away something, and it's like, just shut up. Just listen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just don't stop us. Don't.
Hey, I got some great news for you. All you have to do is shut the fuck up.
Amen.
Yeah.
Good news. This movie kind of walks a tightrope. And it's one of the successes of this movie in that it never ceases being a comedy, even though it's accomplishing real things and focusing on real talk, putting politics on a interpersonal communication level front and center. Even when she goes to run off her zine, Moxie, she has this one copy center she frequents. And it's run by this old counter guy with glasses who's bald and just seems like middle America. You know, he seems like he walked off the American Gothic painting.
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
comes in with like a great line. I need a shitload of copies, which is, you know, kind of a mic throw of a line.
It's on.
Yeah, and any
It
other
is on.
comedy would cut to the next day and they're like passing them out or whatever. But
Mhm.
in this case, like the music stops and the counter man is like, "How many is that?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, I don't know, 50?" And he's like,
Right.
"Okay."
Yeah. Yeah. It also sets that guy up for a little bit of redemption too, because he could care less in the beginning. And then
Right.
later on, she goes out the door with the third or fourth issue of Moxie, and he's like, go get him.
Yeah, it highlights something too, Dave. It's just that if you're around something like that, like this guy was just running off copies. And after
Mm,
a while, you get the sense that this guy was like, let me read this thing I run off
right.
every third
Yeah.
night or whatever. I think he saw even the growth in her from the mousy girl who first
Sure.
arrived
Absolutely.
to her 20th time at the copy shop. That's why, like, everything matters. Just saying you're on someone's side matters. Just saying that you're
Hmm.
not for the other side matters. You
I
know,
agree.
because
That's why
if
I hate that term virtue signaling. I'm like,
oh,
it's it's like fucking solidarity signaling. It's
mhm.
okay signaling. It's if at any point you need to hide, hide behind me. It's so many things. And it's like, what does that do? It doesn't do anything. It just makes you feel better about yourself. I'm like, that's just so not true.
No, it's not true. And also, the entire definition is erroneous. Doesn't virtue signaling sound to you like it's someone pretending to have virtues?
Right. Yeah.
In fact, it's just the opposite. It's like, hey, here's how I feel about things. I'm on the side of righteousness. Like
I know.
that's not virtue signaling. That's just having virtues and
Yeah,
opening your mouth.
you can literally donate money to a candidate that you like or to a
Hmm.
cause that you like. You could take $1,000 of your money and give it to this cause, and some jackass will say, you're just virtue signaling. And it's like, that was actual money to an actual cause.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's almost laughable. It is laughable.
Yeah.
The stars and hearts are a perfect example. Do this to show solidarity. Are you kidding me? Like kids who thought they were outnumbered, kids who thought they were in danger, kids who thought no one cared about them, seeing that they're part of something, seeing that other kids have compassion, seeing that some guy who's not affected by, he's not a woman, he's not gay, he's not any of the marginalized groups, but he has some stars and hearts too. Like meaningful. It's meaningful.
Just feeling like you're in a little bit of a safer place.
Mhm.
It's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I mean, someone can say to you, "Trust me, you're not the only one. A lot of people feel the way you do." And it's like,
No.
"Well, where the fuck are they?"
This country is a certain number of people wanting progress and a certain other number of people not wanting progress. And then it splinters off in a million other directions. But progress is everybody loving everybody and allowing other people to exist and not infringing on other people's power or rights. And this movie nails that.
I think so. And it's obviously a utopian version of that. Everything goes really well, and there's not a lot of consequences for the disobedience
Hmm.
and but it's like, yeah, that's what it is. It's a movie to inspire young people, to educate older people. It does its jobs.
Hmm.
And I get that it's a bit pie in the sky and it's a bit, oh, you solved all the problems in 2 hours. It's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to feel good. And you're supposed to be able to go to it, enjoy it, and maybe even accidentally walk out of it a better person.
And we've said it a million times before, Dave, on other films. There are two ways to address a problem. You address things the way they are, or you address them the way they should be. And
Yeah.
you show a world where things work right and you show what's possible, and you want to inspire them.
If anyone says you didn't show them how, say, I don't know how they'll do it. I have faith in them that they'll
Right.
come up with a way. I don't know how they'll do it. I'm from the generation that didn't.
Yeah. And what it did too is she started putting out this zine like her mom did generations before. And immediately Lucy puts an Instagram handle up for the Moxie crew. And
Mm,
it becomes this wonderful thing that's the hybrid of the old with the new. And it's
yeah,
all
that
these
is
women
nice.
talking to each other. And that's what a lot of the Riot Girl movement was about, as far as I understand it, was just women talking to each other for the first time and sharing the way they felt, And there's this wonderful scene. It's a party scene, the rich kid's house, who works as like the mascot for the football team
Yeah. He's funny in his patheticness.
in his patheticness. And it's kind of like the party in Booksmart if it were thrown by the yacht party rich kid,
Hmm.
And anyway, it's, the high school party you've seen a million times before. Everyone is underage drinking and the debauchery runs rampant. But Vivian goes with her best friend, Claudia. They're each like, are you having fun? I think I'm having fun. I don't know if I'm having fun. End up being pulled into a room by other Moxie girls. And they have the first meeting of like Moxie girls, I guess we'll call them.
Sort of fittingly, I think they're having it in this rich guy's, what do you call them?
Man
Man
cave.
cave. Ugh.
Yeah, they
Right?
get sick just thinking that they're in the man
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah.
But isn't that
But
the
it's a perfect
best
place to have
place?
the meeting. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's like enemy territory. And they're
Yeah.
just, they're planting a flag. It's wonderful. And there's a character there who literally got in trouble for wearing a tank top because she, has a larger breast size than other girls who are wearing exactly the same thing. That I don't want to get into a whole rape culture thing, but what a woman's wearing shouldn't even be on the table. And for a principal of a school to just walk in a classroom, who quote unquote tattled on her, who called
Yeah.
that to her attention? It was really a spooky scene the way it's played out.
Imagine that scene 20 years ago. People would literally be like, I don't understand this scene. She was
Right.
wearing a shirt she's not allowed to wear. Why is this a problem? It's like the principal removing her from the class. It's really textbook accusing the victim. It's just so bad. Like, oh, you're coming, you don't have a sweater, you're gonna push back on this, come with me. And it's like
Yeah.
everything about this situation is based on the bad that men do. You can't wear that shirt because you may entice a man into doing something bad. You can't wear that shirt because the bad men can't concentrate when you wear that shirt.
You
That's
can't
like,
wear that shirt because a guy who is already predisposed to being a creep and raping
mm,
you might get visions of
mm,
being a creep and raping you. It's like either a guy's bad or he's not,
mm.
you
But the
know?
idea that it's like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
It's like there's nails all over the road. The road is littered with nails. And you're like, these tires will not do. These tires will be punctured by the nails. We
uh,
need to make better tires. It's like, no, we
yeah.
need to get the nails off the road.
Mm.
Uh, that was a really weird choice, but it's just blaming the wrong thing. And when the wrong thing is a human being,
Hmm.
it does great damage.
And you
Yeah.
know what? Kids that age are already so unbelievably insecure about the way they look and about how they're perceived and about what other students are saying about them. That to put them on blast like that in front of the class, to not even be like, she could have made an announcement, please come to my office,
Shows a
handled
great
badly and bad in the first place.
principle of high school, and you're not hip to the fact that you can cause a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I also just want to mention that this movie has certain characters that in other movies, sometimes maybe you'd see them, but they're not even given lines. There's a
Mm,
character, a girl in a wheelchair who has
mhm,
artificial legs. There is a trans girl called, I
mhm.
think, CJ, and she's auditioning for the role of Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors, which apparently some people had a problem with. and that's her beef that she brings up.
They won't
Uh,
call her by her new name. They're dead naming
yeah,
her.
they're dead
Yeah.
naming her, which is a thing. I keep trying to wrap my head around why straight cis people have a problem with trans people or with, non-binary people. I mean, this is me, someone who was born and raised in New York, saying this, who's had friends of all stripes my whole life. But it seems to me it is super easy for me to just switch over and use a different pronoun or use a different name.
I'm not going to play devil's advocate. I'll say that. But I will point out that there is a thing where it is difficult to get it to stick in your head. I have a very close friend who has recently let me know that I will be calling her she from now on. And that's difficult because I have quite literally 25 years of brain muscle memory of using male oriented pronouns. So this is going to take time and I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. It's the rare, honest mistake. And it starts to stick. And then I get there. And I just need a little patience from people for the way human brains work.
Well, I think any trans or non-binary person completely understands when someone's heart is in the right place and
The
they
person I'm talking about completely understands.
yeah, I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
like I mean they, I
Mhm.
quickly correct myself and they understand that it's a slip of the tongue,
Yeah.
but what we're talking about here is when people actually, I think you have to go back to like, when people refuse to call Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali, and we're calling him
Sure.
Cassius Clay to get under his skin. It's a
Mhm.
vindictive thing. When you make a conscious choice, that's something wholly other. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly what we're
that
talking about.
character's going through stuff. We each have people in our lives who either are making the transition, being trans or non-binary or somewhere on that spectrum, and people who refuse to change, who refuse to evolve, who refuse to acknowledge the other human being's right to be whoever they are as far as they are concerned.
Interesting dichotomy because it's like, wow, look how malleable, look how changeable human beings, look at the change human beings are capable of. And then you go, And also not so much.
Yeah. Be the change or lack of it you want to see in the world, I guess.
Yeah.
Usually a story like this is about kids all trying to negotiate high school together. And they're like the strange people and who fits in with who. There's a learning curve across the board. And one of the things that made this movie kind of unique, everyone in this movie has somehow known each other since kindergarten. You
Mhm.
know, whether
Yeah.
it's whether it's Vivian and Claudia, Mitchell, Seth, there's a history. Even Amy Poehler's character calls out that, oh, Seth, wasn't he the kid who like pissed
Peed
his
his pants
pants?
on the field trip. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a unique little undercurrent to it. And I think, again, they're trying to get away from, well, that kid didn't know this kid, or that kid came from a different school where they do this. It's showing you that, like, no, knowing the players doesn't change anything. They're only focusing on the politics of it and the righteousness of it or not. And I really like that.
Yeah, it fits. Because also, obviously, this school is because of that. You're thinking, like, what is the size of this town, or like, what is it about this town that has so little influx of newness? It points to the trouble you get in when you don't bring in new hearts and minds to guide you. And maybe the world is starting to leak into there. Lucy's one of the first sort of outliers to come in and start, making trouble. And they drive it home that it's a small community, which always I am always flabbergasted by these gigantic high schools, by these football fields with stadiums and lights.
Yeah.
Like I remember when we got a scoreboard that was electric, I was like, good grief for
Yeah.
football. Like, I mean, it was just a muddy field with
Yeah.
goalposts. Like,
My high school didn't even have a football team. Yeah, I couldn't imagine this kind of school. I've always been enamored by it, and when I was a kid growing up in a neighborhood very much unlike the one that was in John Hughes films, I would see John Hughes films and it just seemed like heaven to me. It
I
seemed
just
like
assumed it was pretend. I assumed John Hughes's high schools
Hmm.
didn't actually exist.
That's great.
Um,
I was the other way. It killed me because I felt like they did. And I just was
mm,
so shut out of that. And I would have, I aspired to, I would ask my parents, like, why can't we move somewhere where I could go to a school like that? You know, and they're like, we don't
mm,
have any money. That's
right.
why. But I would kill for the problems of the characters on there. I'm like, oh, really? You're driving an ancient Porsche and you dress however you want? Oh,
It's worth mentioning though, like we are old guys watching these high school movies and being
mhm.
just enamored by them and being sort of blown away by them. We believe the children are the future, but we really do. And the
Yeah.
kids are all right and all that stuff.
Hmm.
I find it very uplifting.
Definitely. I'm buoyed by all of the movies depicting high school that we've seen. We have another couple coming up. I just want to tease that, but I won't tell you which ones. Let's bring this home. I really love the way this movie finishes with grand dramatic gestures, which may or may not have the consequences we'd like it to have, but it leaves you with enough of a satisfying victory
Hmm.
on all fronts, you know, because Vivian is under a lot of pressure outside of school. You know, she's a child of divorce. Her mom is dating someone new, played by Clark Kellogg, who is great. And she lost her friend. She later regains her. But people like to say of high schoolers going through things or kids who are in love or anything that, oh, it's puppy love. They downplay everything. No one sees it the way it is, that all your problems are magnified at that age
Hmm.
because you don't have the quote unquote problems of adulthood. Everything is outsized, everything is blown up, everything is more dramatic. And so when you have real things happening like bullying, like misogyny, like, you know, being sexualized at a young age, being assaulted, it is larger than life.
Those things you just mentioned are getting bundled in with the puppy love and the
Hmm.
not fitting in and the sort of things that are very easy to say, oh, it's no big deal. And oh, you won't even remember. These things are getting lumped in with those things,
Hmm.
and they're not those things.
They're not those things. Also,
These things
Dave,
are.
how many times have young women been told when a boy is like on the playground, like pushing them or pulling their hair or something?
He
Oh,
likes you.
he likes you. He has a crush on you. Fuck that shit.
It starts long before that playground. It starts like in the crib, God damn it. I want it. It's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, women have been taught to be quiet and to not make trouble. I think all kids should be taught to be themselves. And if your kid begins being an asshole, teach them to be quiet.
Mhm.
You know, like I fought so many years to try and get back to who I was before high school started, before you have the pressures of the world pushed upon you, which, if you're lucky, only starts at high school. Sometimes it starts a lot younger. But
Mhm.
if you're lucky, you can make it up till high school, kind of finding out who you are and all of those good
Cartoons,
things.
peanut butter and jelly.
That's
Seriously,
it. If you're
those
lucky.
things.
And here are all these kids struggling with shit that they didn't think they'd have to struggle with until 15 years from now,
Yeah.
being forced to stand up, being forced to adult because they're being taken advantage of and they're tired of it. And there's this wonderful like victory party, this character who they think is going to win this student athlete scholarship. They have this victory party the night before at a VFW that Claudia hooks up. Claudia is such a beautiful character in this.
Yeah, she
And
really is.
she lets them have this party at her bingo hall. The Lindas perform and they play
That was
Rebel
a total
Girl.
surprise for me. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are this wonderful young Asian American rock band who are super cool. And they later would go out on tour with Bikini Kill. But anyway, it's girls to the front. Everybody is safe. They're in a safe place. They're partying, they're dancing, they're slamming into each other, they're making out. They're just being themselves and
Mhm.
celebrating their power and coming into
Yeah.
their power. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I love that that scene exists.
Yeah. I also love that, when that party is starting and Lucy's giving a little speech, she says something like, "The women are the something," I forget what it is, but from the back of the room, you get the old woman, Helen, It's like, "Right on, sister," or something like that. And Lucy goes, "Yeah, Helen,"
Yeah.
which is the actress's actual name, and she's
Oh,
a
that's lovely.
she's the old lady in so many things. And I was after I watched the movie, I was thinking, someone should introduce Helen to the copy shop guy.
Mm,
I think they'd make a
that's
good
nice.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the victories we get. You know, we get that party, that big walkout at the end of the film, the Moxie meeting at the man cave. There are a lot of victories along the way.
Just
No,
I'll
no.
add one. There's a
Yeah.
victory for Amy Poehler as well. When she brings Claudia to the school, she sees that her daughter had done a thing, and she plays it so low key because she's a great mom. "What's this?
Mhm.
What's all this?" And then Vivian said, "I'm not gonna keep the victory from my mom any longer. Thank you. You
Yeah.
know, you're part of why this is happening." That's a great victory for Amy
It
Poehler.
is a great victory. But I just love that it captures that little victories happen all the time and you should savor them. You know, it's yet
Mm.
another kind of, if I can give the god of literature, Kurt Vonnegut, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy the moment because they're
Mhm.
fleeting. And yeah, another one will come along and just wait for it. Put up with what you have to put up with, suffer through what you have to suffer with, but
Mhm.
don't let those moments get by because those are the victories. Who says a victory has to be total and a finale? There are little victories everywhere if you know enough to point them out and celebrate them.
Absolutely. Great advice.
Thank you, sir. So, yeah, we love this movie. I should probably put a woke disclaimer at the beginning of this. But this entire episode hopefully can't escape from being woke. This movie should be seen by everybody. And yeah, like Dave said, it's a little pie in the sky. It's a little bit of sugar to get the medicine down, but the
Yeah.
medicine is there.
Yeah. It's obviously supposed to be positive. It's obviously supposed to be uplifting. It's supposed to be full of lessons. I hate to do it, but Meatballs, you don't have to look for the lessons in Meatballs. They're 100% on the surface.
Hmm.
The good guys and the winners are the people who accept the weirdos and accept the nerds and the people who encourage each other. I like movies that are good on the surface. I like movies that can inspire young people to be better people.
Usually, there's a character who starts out in these kind of movies trying to emulate someone else. This kind of flips that on its head because Vivian is so inspired by Lucy that she creates something anonymously that Lucy
Oh,
wishes she did herself. She's like, if it was me, I'd tell you. I'm. She's so proud of it and lives with it. And still, even knowing everybody is behind it, Vivian can't claim it as her own. She's too shy. She's too introverted. And I love that movies now celebrate characters like that. You know, for so many of the movies you and I grew up with, Dave, you had to be super cool and pull off super cool things and look a certain way to be a hero.
mhm.
No one was really celebrating, you know,
Awkward, ugly,
oh,
who knows what,
yeah,
small, too big,
yeah.
too small.
Long story short, see this movie. Moxie is a good 1-2 punch with Booksmart. If you enjoyed Booksmart, check out Moxie. That's all I have to say on this. This is a good one.
It was a good one. The kids
Uh,
are all right.
the kids are all right. Thank you, Dave. Good job as
Thank you,
always.
Hollis. Thank you, buddy.
I will see you at the rally.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.